Kyle Larson just lived through one of the strangest weekends of his entire NASCAR career, and the way it ended has fans completely split. What NASCAR did, how his team reacted, and what came next is a story you need to hear from the very first move. It all started on Saturday at Pocono Raceway. Kyle Larson's number 5 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet failed NASCAR inspection not just once, but twice. According to Kelly Crandall from Racer, those failures came with real consequences. The team lost its pit stall selection for the whole weekend. On top of that, car chief Jesse Saunders was ejected from the track for the remainder of the race weekend. And it was not only Larson's team feeling the pain. Daniel Dye's number 78 Live Fast Motorsports Chevrolet also failed inspection twice and received the exact same penalties. Engineer Chris Stanley was ejected from the number 78 camp as well. Both cars eventually passed on the third attempt, which meant they were still permitted to qualify and would not have to serve any in-race penalties, but the damage was already done before a single competitive lap had been completed. NASCAR penalized both teams Saturday, stripping them of pit stall selection and ejecting key personnel for the remainder of the race weekend. Instead of choosing their preferred pit stalls, both teams would now be assigned whatever 2 stalls were left over after the rest of the field made their selections. At a track like Pocono, where pit road execution and track position are critical factors from start to finish, that is not a small disadvantage. It is a real operational problem that can affect the entire flow of a race day strategy. It is also worth understanding just how significant losing Jesse Saunders truly was for the number 5 team. A car chief is one of the most important members of any NASCAR crew. He coordinates the setup, manages the car's condition throughout the weekend, and keeps communication flowing between the driver and the engineering group. Losing him before the race even begins forces the entire team to reshuffle responsibilities on the fly, and at one of the most demanding tracks on the schedule, that kind of disruption carries real weight. There was also more going on in the garage that Saturday. The number 6 car of Brad Keselowski, the number 23 of Bubba Wallace, and the number 60 of Ryan Preece were all dropped to the rear of the field for Sunday's Great American Getaway 400 due to unapproved adjustments. So Larson's situation was not the only story creating chaos in the Pocono garage, but it was by far the biggest one. Inspection penalties have become a recurring theme throughout the 2026 NASCAR season as teams continue searching for every possible competitive advantage. This was not the first time the issue had surfaced. Back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway earlier in the year, 4 different car chiefs were ejected for inspection issues. The week before Pocono, similar problems had also popped up at Michigan International Speedway. The pattern is clear. Teams are pushing every limit they can find, and NASCAR is responding with consequences. For Larson, the setback also came at a particularly important moment in the season. Sunday's race marked the 16th points-paying event of the 2026 Cup Series season, with only 10 races remaining before the playoff field is locked in. Larson sat 6th in the Cup Series standings heading into Pocono, which means every single position, every single point, and every single strategy decision carries direct playoff implications. Losing pit stall selection and a key crew member in that environment is not just an inconvenience, it is a genuine threat to where you finish on Sunday afternoon. The weather also added pressure to an already complicated weekend. NASCAR officials moved the race start time from 3 in the afternoon Eastern to 1 in the afternoon Eastern due to concerns about rain rolling into the Pocono Mountains later in the day. The goal was straightforward: get the full 400-mile event completed before the storms arrived. But for teams already dealing with logistical disruptions, an earlier start time means less time to adjust, less time to prepare, and less margin for error. Now here is where the story takes a sharp turn. Because despite everything that had gone wrong, Kyle Larson's number 5 Chevrolet showed up on the speed charts like nothing had happened. During Saturday practice, Larson topped the field with a lap of 170.707 miles per hour around Pocono's tricky triangle layout. But it was not just one fast lap. He also led the field in 10-lap average speed, which is widely considered a more reliable indicator of actual race-winning pace than a single timed effort. That combination told every crew chief and every strategist in the garage one thing: the number 5 car was not just quick in a short burst. It had the pace to run at the front all day long. Then came qualifying. Even after all the drama, Larson posted the second fastest qualifying lap and earned a front row starting spot for Sunday. Pole position went to Denny Hamlin. So when the green flag dropped on race day, Larson was right where a championship contender needs to be, at the very front of the field, and he proved immediately that the penalties had not rattled him. Larson passed Hamlin on the opening lap and took the lead, holding it until lap 25 when Hamlin made his move coming off turn 3 and drove past him heading toward the start-finish line. While Larson remained a factor throughout the afternoon, the bigger story of Sunday belonged entirely to one man. Denny Hamlin won the Great American Getaway 400 at Pocono Raceway, capturing his 8th victory at the iconic 5-mile tricky triangle and extending his own record for wins at this track. More significantly, the victory marked the first time in his 1-year full-time Cup Series career that Hamlin had won 3 consecutive races following back-to-back wins at Nashville and Michigan the 2 weeks prior. The historical company Hamlin joined with that achievement is rare. The 3 straight victories at Nashville, Michigan, and Pocono all came from the pole, the first time that had happened since Darrell Waltrip won 4 straight races from the pole in 1981 at Martinsville, North Wilkesboro, Charlotte, and Rockingham. Only 2 other drivers in NASCAR history had ever won 3 straight races from the pole: Richard Petty, who did it twice in 1966 and 1967, and Bobby Allison, who accomplished it in 1971. The win also pushed Hamlin's career victory total to 64 Cup Series wins, placing him in sole possession of 9th place on NASCAR's all-time wins list, breaking a tie with his former teammate, the late Kyle Busch. That number carries significant weight given the context of who he passed to get there. "Just so special here," said Hamlin of his effort at the iconic tricky triangle. "Just so happy for this whole Joe Gibbs Racing team. This is a team effort. They've given me fast cars. The pit crew is flawless right now. We've just got it all going." When asked about the team's current confidence level, Hamlin was direct. "I'd say it's certainly the best we've been. We come to the racetrack every week knowing that we've got a great shot to win. The team is doing an amazing job knowing exactly what I need in the car every week, and that's why we're winning." The race itself came down to strategy in the final stage, as Pocono races almost always do. Hamlin's Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Christopher Bell gambled with a fuel-saving strategy in the closing laps, attempting to stretch his tank over the final 51 laps without making a pit stop. It was a massive call from crew chief Adam Stevens, and for a while, it looked like it might actually work. Bell inherited the lead on lap 138 after the final round of pit stops cycled through. He built a lead of nearly 17 seconds over Hamlin at one point, and the entire field was watching to see if the number 20 Toyota could hold on. But Bell was nursing a broken left wrist that he had suffered in a violent crash with Chase Elliott at Michigan the week before, and he was racing with a cast on his arm. Brandon Jones had been on standby as a relief driver if needed. The injury made sharp corrections and aggressive driving through traffic more difficult, and as the laps counted down, Hamlin slowly, methodically closed the gap. With 10 laps to go, Bell's lead over Hamlin was 4.8 seconds. With 7 to go, the margin was 2.6 seconds. And then, heading into turn 3, Hamlin made his move and drove past Bell for the lead. Bell had to pit for fuel from 4th place entering the final lap and fell all the way back to 26th from a potential race win to nearly last on the lead lap in the span of one corner. We were mired back in the 20s, so I think it was an amazing call. Bell said of the gamble, "The situation is so hard because you don't know if you are racing for the win or if you are racing to finish the race." Bell was clear about his perspective on the outcome. This was not a woulda, coulda, shoulda. I've had a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas this year, but not this one. That was just a gamble. We ran around 20th all day. Bell still sits 70 points above the chase cut line, so the damage to his playoff position was manageable, but the heartbreak of being one lap away from a potential victory was undeniable. While the Hamlin and Bell storylines dominated the conversation, one of the most significant performances of the entire weekend came from an organization that does not often find itself near the front. Legacy Motor Club had one of its best days in a long time. John Hunter Nemechek led a race-high and career-best 42 laps in the number 42. Toyota more laps than he led in either the entire 2024 or 2025 seasons and backed it up with a fourth place finish, tying his career best. Meanwhile, Erik Jones finished 6th in the number 43 Toyota, his second consecutive top 10 as he continues to fight his way toward the playoff cutoff line. The playoff bubble picture leaving Pocono is razor thin. Shane Van Gisbergen holds 14th place, just 10 points clear of 17th place. Brad Keselowski, Erik Jones and Austin Cindric sit 15th and 16th on a tiebreaker with only a 4-point gap separating them from Keselowski. Joey Logano is behind Keselowski, sitting 21 points outside the top 16. With 10 races left in the regular season, those margins are going to create genuine pressure every single weekend. The full top 10 from Sunday's Great American Getaway 400 finished as follows. Denny Hamlin took the win, followed by Tyler Reddick in second, William Byron in third, John Hunter Nemechek in fourth, Kyle Larson in fifth, Erik Jones in sixth, Chris Buescher in seventh, Ross Chastain in eighth, Ty Gibbs in ninth, and Ryan Blaney in 10th. Now zoom out and look at what this win means for the championship picture. Tyler Reddick held a 105-point lead atop the Cup Series standings after his 5th win of the season at Kansas in April. Thanks to Hamlin's 3-race win streak, that margin has been slashed to just 19 points, the smallest gap at the top of the standings all season. What makes this dynamic particularly unusual is that Hamlin co-owns Reddick's 2311 racing team alongside NBA legend Michael Jordan, meaning he is actively chasing down his own driver for the championship lead. "I'm excited to try to keep this run going somehow, some way," Hamlin said. "Don't want it to stop now. We've come so far with the points that we've gathered over the last few months that I don't want to break that momentum. With 4 wins already in 2026, Hamlin is on pace to seriously challenge Dale Earnhardt's 76 career victories, currently the next milestone on the all-time list. Hamlin has also hinted publicly that 2027 will likely be his final season as a full-time Cup Series driver, which adds even more urgency to what he is building right now. The NASCAR Cup Series now heads west for the inaugural Anduril 250 at the Qualcomm circuit on Naval Base Coronado in San Diego, a brand new 3-4-mile 1/6 turn street course featuring tight corners, long straightaways, and temporary barriers that create significant sightline challenges for drivers entering certain corners. It is a completely different environment from Pocono, and it will tell a very different story about which teams have the range to compete across all track types. Larson arrives in San Diego, still searching for his first win of 2026, carrying a year-long winless streak despite consistently strong speed. Bell arrives nursing a fractured wrist and still uncertain whether he will race. Legacy Motor Club arrives with genuine momentum and something real to prove. And Hamlin arrives as the hottest driver in the sport, 3 straight wins, 64 career victories, a team operating at its absolute peak, and a championship lead that is now within striking distance. William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Kyle Larson clearly have the speed to challenge him. Teams across the field are searching for answers, trying new strategies, and pushing every limit they can find. But right now, nobody in the garage has found the formula to stop Denny Hamlin, and with the playoffs closing in fast, that is the most important question in NASCAR.